jingle.
As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. It's funny, DeMay and I were kind of cutting up in the intro there. And J Pink messaged us privately, and he said, "I give up. So much for trying to remain professional and keep things as professional as possible." J Pink said, "Now, clowns will be clowns."
He said,
"I throw in the
fuck
towel."
y'all."
Yeah, he did, and deservedly, very deservedly, because we probably should not have done that. But you know what? When duty calls, duty calls. And gentlemen, boy, we've got a show today. Like I was talking about in the pre-show, if you do not have your lead hat ready, get it ready. This is not the episode where you need a tinfoil hat. There's simply not enough tin on planet Earth to deflect everything coming at you that is going to be coming at you today from Conspiracy World. And I'm going to try. I'm going to lean heavily into you on this, Ryan, to be a voice of reason. But I'm not going to lie; it's beginning to look weird as hell, and it's so difficult to write it all off as a coincidence at this point. So, anyway, I thought that was interesting. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is Burn and Return. We are one quasi turf professional and two turfgrass professionals, and we have come together every week, mostly for the most part, to be able to bring to you the latest news that we see out there that is going to have some sort of impact on the green industry, the industry we know and love, and that would be the turfgrass ornamental lawn care sector of the industry. And so we pick apart a lot that relates into food supply, that is affected by fertilizer, that is affected by commodity pricing. Because ultimately all of that rolls downhill. So if you're interested in figuring out why the things happen in the industry the way they happen within the industry, much like we like to determine why things happen as we apply various products or inputs or pesticides in people's properties, we do the same thing here, but from a more news-centric focus. So with that, gentlemen, let's go ahead and get rowdy right into this week's headlines.
Nothing to fear here. This is just the news.
Nothing to fear here, indeed. Just kidding. I'm here to induce all the fear. This first one here is I'm just a follow up on our friends in Sri Lanka who have been through a real tough time. For those of you that don't know what happened in Sri Lanka, they attempted to go organic, and boy, oh boy, did it turn bad. On top of record inflation and food shortages and chemical pesticide bans that they did, Sri Lanka is not in a good place. And so we'll kind of tap into this here. It will be hard to find a farmer left. Sri Lanka reels from rash fertilizer ban. Harvests have collapsed, and the way President Rajapaksa introduced a policy angered even organic farmers. Driving through the verdant landscapes of Rajangaya, I'm so sorry for butchering that, rural district in Sri Lanka, where the hibiscus flowers pop out of rich green foliage and the mango trees are already weighed down by early fruit, it is hard to imagine this is a community in crisis. Yet for many of those who have farmed this land since the 60s, mainly with rice and banana crops, the last years have been the toughest of their lives. If things like this go on in the future, it will be hard to find a farmer left in Sri Lanka, a rice paddy farmer said. Sri Lanka is grappling with the worst economic crisis since its independence in 1948, and foreign currency reserves sit at their lowest level on record due to what many see as gross economic mismanagement by the government. There is barely a citizen of this South Asian island who hasn't felt the bite of catastrophic inflation and fuel, food, and medicine shortages in recent weeks. For the farmers of Sri Lanka, the problem began last April when President, who now stands accused of pushing the country into financial ruin, implemented a sudden ban on chemical fertilizers. The full-on implications of this ill-advised policy, which now have been reversed, are only just being realized. Farmers say their livelihoods are under threat, and for the first time in its modern society, Sri Lanka, which usually grows rice and vegetables in abundance, could run out of food as harvests drop, and the government can no longer afford the food imports to the country has become overdependent on in recent years. The rice yields dropped a staggering to 2.92 tons in 2021 to 2022, down from the previous year's 3.39. So we're talking about over a 30% decrease in yield there. And it goes on, and it is a desperate situation. But I bring this up to highlight the fact that this right here is exactly what we can expect to happen as more of these widespread policies are adopted or attempted, with zero room for parallel paths to try to do things differently, to be able to come up with quantifiable data on how these types of things will work. Unfortunately, what people forget is that this has happened before in the past, and we're just reliving history all over again. And now it's taken place in Sri Lanka. And unfortunately, Mexico is headed into the same territory as well if they continue with their edicts moving into GMO crops and glyphosate, where we're going to start running into this, and everybody's going to point the finger at one another and say, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault. But in the reality, the situation is that all of this has been forecasted, and it's real easy to point at and see why and how it happens and what the economic impact is. People start starving. And then I'm going to run this straight into here, because although things may be bad in Sri Lanka, guess what? Not doing too great in the United States as well. We have a press release from CF Industries. For those of you that don't know who CF Industries is the largest nitrogen manufacturer in the United States. And not just the United States, but they're one of the largest in the damn globe. In the globe. Well, it turns out the rail is not enjoying shipping fertilizer right now. And for whatever reason, and I've seen speculation on this in many different forms or fashions, where people are saying that, oh, they're not shipping it because they're getting lower prices for moving rail cars of fertilizer, or that the risk of moving fertilizer requires all these different safety protocols to be implemented, and the railroads don't like doing it because it takes additional time and has an additional cost that goes along with it, and it takes away from a precision rail delivery service that they want to become. Fertilizer interrupts that. So CF Industries reaches out to Union Pacific, and also in the background we've got BNSF, and I want to say CSX is also in this as well, although directly addressed here from CF Industries attorneys. This is directed at Union Pacific. They're basically saying, guess what? The application of nitrogen fertilizers is critical to maximizing crop yields. If farmers are unable to secure all the nitrogen fertilizer that they require in the current season because of supply chain disruptions, such as rail shipping restrictions, the company expects yield to be lower. This will likely extend the timeline to replenish global grain stocks. Low global grain stocks continue to support high front month and forward prices for nitrogen-consuming crops, which has contributed to higher food prices. CF Industries intends to engage directly with the federal government to ask fertilizer shipments to be prioritized so that spring planting is not adversely impacted. Well, if anybody's paid attention to spring planting, again, go check out Standard Grain on YouTube. You will see that we are way behind, and most of that is due to weather. So it's kind of nice that, we do have on our time to be able to play a little bit of catch up here on being able to get nitrogen to people, because we're so far behind on spring planting right now, especially in the Midwest and the upper Midwest. Actually, pretty much everywhere from Tennessee north is way behind. North Carolina is doing okay right now, but the rest of the United States in the northern half is not doing well at all. Extremely behind. In fact, we're so far behind that it's already starting to eat into potential yield that we're going to get. All right. Craziness right there, but it doesn't quite stop there yet. It continues on with CF Industries. CF Industries in the UK has opted to shut down their operations. And what the whole thing that was weird about this is that they just got a bailout. They just got a bailout of a 10 million pound grant that would allow the company to reopen its Billingham factory. They were forced to shut down because of the surge in energy costs. They could no longer profitably produce CO2, which they're using for like drink carbonation and other things that industrial uses in the country. And so it was not exactly clear how much of the 10 million grant they actually received, or if any at all. But preemptively, you know what? They said, we appreciate you working with us, but you know what? It's still 10 million pounds is not going to be enough to be able to make this work. So we will continue on the path of shutting it down. So again, another sector of CF Industries, one being hit the United States, and then CF Industries reaching out and seemingly taking advantage of a financial opportunity to shut down in Europe and going ahead and doing it. So the whole thing is just a giant clusterfuck. And to be honest, it makes everybody look like the bad guy. And then actually, JPEG, I apologize. I'm going to skip the next one here and go on to the last one here that talks about a fire. And this is out of powderbulksolids.com. So this is an industrial moving company. And for those of you that don't know, this week, a Nutrien Ag Solutions facility caught on fire. Firefighters and a hazmat crew were sent to the Nutrien Ag Solutions fertilizer plant in Leoti, Kansas after a blaze broke out at the facility Tuesday afternoon. Flames ignited on the North 4th Street location at about 3:30 p.m. Officials ordered evacuations for people living inside a half-mile radius of the plant. Fire Chief Charlie Hughes told the station that flames were isolated to a forklift and non-hazardous chemicals. No injuries were logged during the incident, and a spokesperson, according to a spokesperson from Nutrien Ag. All right. Why do I bring that up? Why is that important? Well, also, for those of you that don't know, we've had a fertilizer plant fire not too long ago take place in North Carolina. Now we have Nutrien Ag catching on fire. And then if you really, and gentlemen, I hate to even do this, but if you have not paid attention to what's going on in food processing facilities, not only are we seeing anomalies in the fertilizer space with shortages, force majeures, all that fun stuff, but also now we've got 2 fires that are taking place, if not more. I've actually had people that are pinging me right now with more instances of it. I might compile that for a little bit later here as I continue talking about this. But food processing facilities seem to be under the same path. And I'll read some headlines for you here. Bonanza Meat Company building fire on Pasanio Drive near downtown El Paso. Fire erupts at meat processing facility in Lackawanna County. Crews battle major fire at Cobb County Meat Company. Fire shuts down Nebraska JBS beef plant. Massive fire at Salinas food processing plant contained. Evacuations lifted. Cattle rescued after fire destroys meat market. Large fire at Tyson Poultry Mill plant in Hanceville, Alabama. Fire shuts down Hot Pockets plant in Jonesboro. Wisconsin River Meats says portion of Mouston plant a total loss after fire. Fire destroys Deli Star meat plant in St. Clair County. Explosion causes fire at Oregon potato chip plant. Several area departments respond to fire at Smithfield Foods. Fire causes $100,000 in damages to San Antonio food processing plant. Multiple alarm fire at food processing operation in Hamilton Mountain. Fire ravages Macron potato processing plant in Belfast, Maine. Memphis Fire Department responds to third alarm fire at Kellogg's Company. Explosion and fire reported at Cargill Nutrien feed mill. Oh, and then we had a Cessna 172 crash into one as well. This is I listen, guys, at what point, and this is a lot of this has occurred over within the last year and a half. What is going on? Is this just the fact that we have greater access to news and information, and that's why it's able to be compiled and listed out like this? Is this an extreme number of fires? Is everybody so hungry for tragedy that news stations are out there looking for, even if it isn't a total loss at a plant, but they're like, oh, I smell smoke. We better hurry up and get it listed in the news. And, we got to freak everybody out. I don't know, but I'm not going to lie, gentlemen. I work in manufacturing. Fires are relatively common. For the most part, they're pretty much contained and does not require the intervention of the fire department. Oh. Now, if you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of tons of material, yeah, it could get a bit more extreme. But at the same time, when you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of tons of material, you have a little bit different safety protocols in place than you do when you have 100 pounds of material. Somebody commented and said unskilled labor. Could that be a contributing factor? I don't know. All of this does. And that's why I'm bringing it up. I bring up all of this to say that this is weird. All of it is weird. The Sri Lanka situation is weird. The timing of the thing in Mexico is weird. The CF Industries and the rail situation is weird. And I saw CF Industries reached out to President Biden, was like, please, can you do something for us? And he said, I'll have a chat with the rail companies. And then they released this press release, and the rail companies turned right around and was like, basically like, no, sorry, we're more interested in precision railroad. So the whole thing is just bizarre. Now we've got fertilizer plants on fire. We got food processing plants that seemingly can't stop catching on fire. At what point does this not seem scripted? Is my lead hat failing? Are the waves getting through and rotting my brain here? Do I need to wear two lead hats? Do I need to stop eating the lead? Is that the problem? Am I eating the lead too frequently?
This isn't 4chan. This is TurfChan.
Are you sure?
I don't know. What you're talking about, to coordinate something like that, to make it all happen. I mean, I don't know. Here's my voice of reason.
Right, Ryan. I'm not even saying that it's coordinated.
Okay.
But what is the world saying to us when this is happening? Is this a deity looking down on us and saying you don't deserve to be here anymore?
Okay, so like, and there's way too many things to unpack here. Number one, this is okay. First thing I'm going to say, look at the workforce right now. Okay, the people that want to be working are definitely working. I'm not saying that everybody that is working though is, an all-star, right? A world beater. So, do we maybe have some people doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, right? That they otherwise, in a perfect world, wouldn't be doing? Probably. Do we also have places that are paying, more than the average wage, right, for a particular job? And even though that they're paying a higher wage, doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting somebody who's as skilled as they should be. Or, same time, how many of these places are running on skeleton crews and shit gets missed? Maintenance checks get forgotten about, not done, right? Skipped over, whatever the case might be. And that's when shit piles up. Right? We all know that if you don't do some of those things, that there could be, there's bound to be some bad things that happen. So I would say that this is more of a exposure of the symptom, right? And the fact that, listen, our whole method of bringing products to consumers in this country, including commodities, for a long time has been razor thin and completely fucked up, and nobody knew about it. It was just something you didn't talk about. You didn't have to, right? Because the shit was there. And now it's just this big conversation. And, we had this conversation about the labor piece, like in Turf last week or the week before, where, we said that, hey, listen, we were sounding the alarm bells and doing all this shit 5-6 years ago, right? Whereas everybody now is like, oh man, I can't get any help. Nobody wants to work. Nobody no shit. It's the same thing we went through. So what I'm saying is that now, collectively, as a society, and unfortunately, it's affecting some really crucial sectors here, like, right, ag companies, like, commodity producers, raw material suppliers, things like that. The logistics of getting all that shit around, right? And all that being said, right, then you've got, world events and shit. I'm just saying, it is really fucked up. Is it a deity or something that is inspiring against this? No, I don't think so. But I also would agree with your last statement there that we have more access to information and more power for thought than we ever have had ever before, right? So who knows how much really fucked up shit happened in the past that we just never knew about, realized, or wanted to acknowledge in history books, right? So I'm not ready to, put on my lead hat. I think it's okay.
The timing of it all is unfortunate, though, is where I'm at. Because, at a time we need stability and security, especially related to in the commodity space, especially related to commodities, we need that exceptionally aggressively right now. And this is more pandemonium into the marketplace. This is going to continue to cause fear in the marketplace, and that's why you see things trading with wild volatility like you do in the commodity space, because these are just more compounding factors that are already adding to an already testy situation. Ray, you will entertain my conspiracy world. I read this, I talk about this. Where you at on it?
You know, I have to agree with Ryan to a large extent. And the other factor to this is for the past 2 years, Matt, everything has been COVID, 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 right? And in that emphasis, things such as maintenance of facilities and factories has, gone by the wayside almost, because it's more important to keep everybody out of the building than it is to keep the damn plant running, for example. And likewise, that incident with the rail company,
Mm-hmm.
that, Matt, that is payback. That is payback. And you know why that's payback?
No, I don't.
When the president went to the railroad and said, could you please, help us out? We're in a situation. What did the railroad do? They did this, right? And you know why they did that? Because the railroad companies were a sector that would have been affected by all of the COVID mandates. And only recently have most of those COVID mandates been dropped. And with those COVID mandates, the net effect of those mandates would be for a lot of these people in industries such as railroad, food manufacturing, etc., trucking even, all of these guys stood to lose their job. Okay? They stood to lose their job. And so I am not surprised when the railroad company gets asked for help and their answer is, yeah, we'll think about it. We thought about it. No.
It's I'm not gonna lie, it's shocking.
I'm not surprised.
And to see a press release from CF Industries like that, like it's basically like, hey, we're going to talk tough to you. You better effing help us out, which is kind of the way that was written. That was kind of my take on how it sounded and kind of the emotion that was addressed behind it. And I did not expect. I was like, oh boy, that's a little testy. And what's interesting to me is that the railroad industry not being like, okay, we're looking at this from an objective point of view here, and we see all the domino pieces, and for the greater good of humanity, for the greater good of the nation, for the strength of the nation. All right, we hate doing it, but we ought to step up and do this. But I also get for where you're coming on your point too there, Ray, where they were like, well, we stood to lose, 20%, 30%, 40% of our workforce due to restrictions or mandates or whatever the case may be. We're not going to do anything the government tells us to do right now. Maybe if CF Industries and comes to us with their hand open and a decent checkbook, we'll get a little feisty with them. But until then, we're not going to take directions from the government on how we should handle CF Industries or whoever the case may be. It's just the whole thing is interesting and weird and bizarre and crazy, and the timing of it could not be any worse. And I was, for the most part, joking about my conspiracy with the food processing facilities. But, in what y'all were talking about actually made a lot of sense there with running skeleton crews, preventative maintenance falls to the wayside. And I can tell you that lead times on replacement parts right now are absolutely asinine. Anything you order right now that you used to be able to get in a week to 3 weeks is easily 3 to 4x that right now. So, for instance, if you've got a baghouse dust collector, and as those inline filters in that baghouse fill up and they need to be replaced, they blow down. You put compressed air through it, and it knocks the free dust through, and it'll fall into a barrel, and then you discard the barrel, reintroduce it in the line, or whatever the case may be. But you need to replace those filters on a certain interval, and you can't get it because you expected a 1 to 3 week lead time, and now they're like it's going to be 12 to 18 weeks lead time on it, and you're trying to milk that bag house as much as you possibly can because you're not going to have filters. You're like, well, we got to run. We don't have new filters for it. We might lose a little bit of throughput capacity because our filters are plugged, but we'll hose them out the best we can with compressed air and see what ends up happening. And what happens is you get a bunch of fine particulate in a enclosed space like that. And it takes a little bit of a spark, and then you've got a boom. And then when things go boom, fire departments show up, news departments show up, and they start writing about it. It makes it into the news, and then it fuels fodder for what's coming up next, right? And that doesn't make it into the news article, and the people that are compiling this aren't looking at it from that point of view. So I really appreciate y'all's takes on that. I think that's a very, very common sense approach to it. Now, there was one more I wanted to bring up here, and we'll fly through it because we're kind of running short on time on this part of it. But I couldn't decide whether to put this in Burns, but I was like, we'll go ahead and throw it in the headlines and just keep an eye on it and see how it plays out. New York Hamlet looks to replace pesticides with kelp. Oh boy. The Honorable Joseph Colbytown of Oyster Bay Golf Course will use a nutrient-dense edible seaweed, which is a natural source of key minerals, vitamins, and when processed, in an organic alternative to chemical fertilizers. We're starting off with our golf course, and that's why we call the initiative From Farm to Fairway. What a horrific slogan, by the way. That is the laziest, lamest slogan I've ever heard. So they're using sugar kelp as one of the 30 varieties of large brown and green seaweed growing in saltwater, and it's about to make a move on the golf course. We're starting off with our course, our Farm to Fairway initiative, and we're going to see what happens because it's full of nutrients and vitamins and minerals and all that fun stuff, and is a great alternative to chemical fertilizer. It's perfect because I think organic material is the way to go. Oyster Bay golfer, Varghese George said, not a turfgrass manager, not a plant scientist, but a golfer said, that's got to be a great thing, right? Normally the kelp would degrade and the nitrogen would go back to the estuary into the ecosystem, but by removing it and putting it on the golf course, it basically closes the nitrogen loop. Now we have a marine biologist, Dr. Aaron Freeman, commenting on it. Kelp removes nitrogen pollution from the water, CBS2 reported. These aquaculture projects are phenomenal, and we're really commend the town for making a commitment to finding innovative ways of improving water quality. The kelp will be rinsed of salt, dried in the sun until crispy, and put through a leaf chipper, and within a month it will be ready to be dispersed.
Oh my God.
It's some redneck shit right here. If it works on the golf course, kelp will become routine placement in town parks. Oyster Bay plans to grow and process 3,000 feet of kelp in the first year. That is the equivalent of 10 football fields. Gentlemen, what we see here is, I'm just going to watch it. I'm not going to say anything right now, but I'm going to watch this because it is a hope and a dream and wishful thinking, and heaven forbid we have to deal with any Erwinia. But if I recall correctly, I believe the plan for Sri Lanka was to move to a seaweed fertilizer, and we see how that played out. But now we're going to try it in golf instead of farm, and that may be the appropriate thing to do. I don't know. And is it truly going to replace pesticides? That is wishful thinking. Ray, talk to me about this. Is kelp the new frontier to eliminating pesticides?
Matt, this is old. Okay, this was actually tried in the 1960s and the 1970s, and my first experience with kelp was in this product called MaxiCrop. That was a kelp extract that was first developed in the UK, and it came to the United States. And you know what? That was my first exposure to buy my shit. Okay. And on top of that, I know for myself what happens when you apply excessive amounts of kelp to plants. It is basically the wrong thing to do, because kelp is not a blank or inert source of NPNK. Kelp also has a lot of plant hormones in it. And so you cannot hope to supply adequate NPNK to plants without also having that hormonal baggage come along with it. So this is just a case of nice thought, but please rethink.
You know, I think about it from the standpoint that you can hormonally manipulate a man or a woman, right? And in order to maximize the results you get out of that, you have to adjust your diet and your lifestyle to support the hormone manipulation that goes along with it, right? You can't just start taking testosterone and expect to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't work that way, right?
Nope. Don't happen.
It has to be a lifestyle choice that goes along with it. In the same instance, you start forcing hormones into a plant, you have to have the appropriate agronomy to go along with it in order to capitalize on the realized benefits of it, right? And even then, there's a limit to it. I can't take 5 grams of testosterone a week and expect to be a normal human being. My heart would explode. My heart would literally be the size of DeMay's head, and it would explode. Go ahead, DeMay.
What if your Bermuda grass didn't want potash or potassium but drank Red Bull? What would you do then?
I'd run a marathon because that makes the most sense in that kind of scenario. That was a great callback, by the way. That was a great callback.
Yeah.
So I think this is silly, to be honest, but go for it. Let them try. I guarantee you the superintendent that has been tasked with this is absolutely miserable. And he's going to play along and be like, oh, yeah, I'm so excited about this. And he's going to go home and he's going to drink a 12-pack of beer and he's going to bitch at his wife about, here we've got another member task force that has put an unrealistic expectation upon me that is not feasible. It's not sustainable. And you know what? I've got to pretend like it's going to work until it doesn't anymore. And then when it doesn't, they'll probably hang it over my head and fire me for it. And it's just a shitty situation to be in. Am I right on that, DeMay, or am I overreacting there?
He could be into it. He might not be. I have no idea. I don't want to speak for him, but I will just say that here would be my thing. If I was walking into the situation as a professional doing what I do, would be, if this is what you want to do, I'm not here to talk you out of it. My question would be, how do we define success in this situation? Like, really define success. Does that mean that, hey, the grass is still green and we didn't use any pesticides? Does that mean that we only lost 50% of our grass? Does that mean that we removed X number of tons of kelp out of the bay? Like, what are we going for here? Like, that would be my question. Like, just doing something to say that you did it is kind of fucking worthless in my estimation. So, again, I always question clients on that particular piece. Is like, it's great that we say we want to do things and we have plans and everything like that, but what is the payoff in the end, and or what is the objective here? And I'm kind of struggling to figure out what that might be in this case.
I'm with you there, because my first question would be, what is the metric in this case that defines that this is successful? And then I need to then drill down as to that metric being, okay, so we didn't use any chemical fertilizers, or we didn't apply any pesticides. Great. However, is the course still largely playable? Is our labor inputs increasing or decreasing? There's all of these metrics that some of them work together, some of them work against each other, and I want to know, what is the endpoint of this all? Because the frequent theme on burn and return seems to be good ideas gone bad. Am I right?
You're exactly right. And the headline here of, we're going to replace all pesticides with kelp, is asinine. And that could be the fault of the writer and not the actual intent of the golf course at all. Speaking of the, I had some real good self-deprecating humor there. That it may have been a little too dark. It was dark. It may have been a little too dark, and probably not the appropriate segue for this week's sponsor, which is Lawn Supply Company. If you would like to check out some things that, if you pro-level solutions for the elite homeowner, how about that? I love that tagline right there. If you're into doing things like Ryan Knorr and literally maintaining your home lawn as if it is a golf course, check out the products that are offered here. You have everything from soluble, sprayable nutrients to liquid formulations for your favorite spoon-feed approach or aesthetic that you're looking to achieve. It's all available right there. Check it out, Lawn Supply Company. Head on over to ryannorlawncare.com and check it out. There's some definite unique technologies there that come in the form of the new Greenor SP Biochelate. Again, a chelate that protects up to a pH of 9, and we've actually tested that all the way up to a pH of 12 for at least 24 hours. It's actually a little bit longer than that. We started seeing failure somewhere around the 18-day mark at a pH of 12. So pretty interesting product there, and definitely the only one like it on the market. And, out there, if you're looking for the next frontier of your literal golf course style lawn, and I mean that in a very, very literal sense. If you're paying attention to what Ryan Knorr and Ryan DeMay talk about on the upcoming Turfcast, you will see that it is some real deal shit. This ain't no weekend warrior type of project. All right, gentlemen, I felt like I kind of set the headlines on fire, but let's go ahead and talk about this week's burns too. It never gets old to me.
It really doesn't. And I feel like Sheila probably, when she gets X-rays, does not need to put any lead plates or jackets around her midsection, because everything bad that's happened's already happened. Just saying.
It couldn't be any worse than what she's already experienced.
Yeah, they call it Chernobyl there for a reason.
Sheila, we love you from the bottom of our hearts, and we mean that. Mean it. Love you. Mean it. The first one here is this is one of those that's real counterintuitive to everything we want to believe about using and Ryan or Ray, either of you correct me, but I believe the tagline in one of the videos that we watched in the after show was this product containing humic is pushing micronutrients into the soil and into the plant. Biostimulants push, in this particular case, it was a humic product, is pushing micros into the soil and into the plant somehow, some way. I don't know, but the idea is that, we need more microbes. We need more microbes and more micros and microbes. Well, come to find out that it could be destroying our soils, as a matter of fact, according to this peer-reviewed publication. Iron is to blame for carbon dioxide emissions from soil, says a soil scientist from RUDN, which is some university. Iron minerals and bacteria can be the main agents of carbon dioxide emissions from the soil. Soil scientists from RUDN University made this conclusion after studying the process of organic plant waste decomposition of the micro level. I got choked there. Iron and hydrogen peroxide entered into a reaction, as a result of which active oxygen forms, oxygen radicals. These radicals destroy plant waste in the soil and promote carbon dioxide emissions. The result of the study was published in the Geoderma Journal. Carbon dioxide is considered one of the main reasons for global warming, and almost half of it is released to the atmosphere from the soil. The most active soil-breathing areas usually contain decomposing plant waste. Such areas tend to have hotspots, local zones up to 1 cubic centimeter in volume, where the decomposition is process is almost 100 times faster. Due to a combination of high moisture and good aeration, these hotspots offer perfect living conditions to soil microorganisms. Previously, microbial activity had been considered the reason for active CO2 emissions. However, a soil scientist from RUDN University confirmed that it was in fact oxidation reduction transitions of soil iron that caused them. And it goes on to describe this in more detail as far as what's going on. But it turns out the reactive oxygen or oxygen radicals, and especially in areas that are high in iron, you get this iron and hydrogen peroxide, which is incredible. One, it attracts a shite load of microbial activity in this one particular instance, because you have all this free radical oxygen there. And then second of all, it very, very, very rapidly degrades organic matter, thus causing a massive deflux of CO2 release. So in this particular instance, applying a bunch of bacteria to the soil or stimulating a bunch of bacteria into the soil to increase microbial mineralization and feed the microbes, feed the soil, and then adding a little bit of iron to it just to kickstart things and jumpstart things actually turns out maybe contributing to one of the problems we're facing. You try to do good. You're working on the soil. Do you hear me, DeMay? I am working on my soil. I am building my soil. I am soil focused. I am soil centered. I soil tested. I amend my soil. I spray my amendments. I'm amending, and I am causing a metric ton of CO2 release as a result. Is this wishful thinking gone bad? Is this science catching up to what we've been doing? What's going on here?
A little bit more of the latter. And here's the thing, specifically in turf and really ag in general, right? Is that the approach for a long time has been to study these cause and effect type situations in a vacuum, right? In as controlled of an environment as we possibly can. Maybe even in a lab, right? And then introduce them to the field to see if we can replicate that same work, right? And same results. And sometimes, depending on the crop, in particular turfgrass, right? Like we don't see a lot of replication across multiple sites all the time, right? And so, I guess the point here is that when it comes down to it, is that the research is going to continue to take as far as it will take us. However, there's not a whole lot of research going on, unfortunately. And so this gets back into, again, what is the value of a professional turfgrass manager? And I'm not saying that the people who are listening that aren't professional turfgrass managers need to STFU or anything like that. What I'm saying is this is how you can discern a professional, Ray. And that is that to understand that what you do out there in the field, each decision that you make and each product that you apply or input that you put into the system, right, has some other effect either at that same time, right, almost instantaneously, or sometimes downstream. And it is your job as a professional to manage all of those inputs, right? Or in some cases, like we've talked about before, Ray, simply doing nothing, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do with turf, to manage to a result. And I think that is the thing that Matt, your after dark rage tweeting has gotten at here as of late. And this is what I come back to each time, is that is what sets apart, somebody can say they're pro, somebody can do this for money, and that's great. And I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing it and making a living like that. However, a true professional turfgrass manager is one that tries to manage the best that they possibly can with those inputs to get to a certain result. And they don't always win. They don't always succeed, right? There's failure that's involved in there too. So I think what this shows us, right, is that even when we think we're doing good and even when we're having a positive response from something, it doesn't necessarily mean that there are not effects, right, ulterior to our given objective. And that's what we always need to be understanding and aware of. So that's all I have to say about that.
That was so eloquent.
That was
Ray,
wonderful, because
I know that after reading this, that you are going to run out there and throw away all the humic acid in your arsenal. Just kidding. I know you don't have any. So, talk to me here. Is this one of these moments where you kind of you kind of want to say, see, I told you so, or think twice before you make a final decision? I don't know. Tell me what's kind of ruminating in your brain there.
well, I think you just called it. I told you so. Okay, I told you so. Soil operates in a balance, and in most cases, that soil comes to its own balance without us idiot humans messing around and thinking that we're smarter than Mother Nature. You see, I am supremely unimpressed by the people that, for example, want to force feed soil a lot of organic matter, because you guys know what the other greenhouse gas is. The other greenhouse gas is methane. And methane is literally produced when organic matter decomposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And first question is, how is that organic matter getting into the soil? Oh, because stupid humans put it there because somebody else on YouTube told us you need to feed your soil. Put on this organic
Put on
matter
this
containing granular liquid. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say put on this T-shirt that's too small and have hard nipples and tell us about how to do that.
No. I'm getting to
I
the
gotta
point
do that.
here. I'm getting to the
Let me
point
do
of.
You put that Cialis
Of-
down right now, God damn it.
no. I'm getting to the point of all of this applying organic matter. And by the way, here's one of my diagnostics for turf that has too much organic matter. The soil literally stinks. Okay? It stinks to me. And it smells like something's rotting. And that rotten smell is no doubt methane and hydrogen sulfide, for example. Because just this week, I had a conversation with somebody else in the business where he asked me, so Ray, the price of produced compost has doubled on me. Should I continue using that stuff? And you know what my answer to him was? I told him, only in Hawaii do we aspire to grow grass on soil that contains over 50% incompletely decomposed organic matter. Only in Hawaii do we do that kind of shit. I told him if it were up to me, the grass would be grown on just regular soil, given its NP and K, and that's about it. Organic matter, I told him, is for flower beds and home vegetable gardens.
And in that
And whoever
instance,
told you
that makes
you're okay
perfect
with
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it too. But then I'm going to finish by saying, whoever said that you need high organic matter content to grow grass, whoever said that, I think they're a little bit miseducated. And my guess is, and I'm giving them some grace, is they probably tried to translate growing flowers or vegetables to growing grass. And that's why they're pushing so much organic matter.
Yeah, no doubt. It is. And I don't want to think. Can you grow decent grass using organic matter as a fertilizer? Sure, no problems with it at all. But to take it to the next level and say that what you're doing is way more environmentally responsible than the next guy, or what you're doing is the only way to do it, is just 100% not true. And now, unfortunately, what's happening is it's catching up that, hey, if you're applying lots of organic matter and stimulating all that soil biology that you're just dying to get brought up, and then, maybe applying something like a little additional nitrogen, which is going to accelerate the decomposition of organic matter or the mineralization of organic matter, or a little bit of iron, and all of a sudden you're getting reactive, active oxygen radicals that are forming and causing incredibly huge hotspots of CO2 release as a result of it. That where your plan to be environmentally responsible, your plan to do things differently just backfired. And, good old standard NPK agronomy caught up to you is looking like, well, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea after all. Next one here, yes, as Ray said, is we have a lovely family. A Kingston family's house was bombarded with golf balls. They sued the country club next door and won nearly $5 million. It's been emotionally taxing on us. 700 golf balls were not included when the Tenzars bought bought their $750,000 Kingston home. But neither were the broken windows, dented siding, and gunshot-sounding golf ball hits that turned their dream home into a nightmare. The couple decided to pursue legal action and sue their neighbors at the Indian Pond Country Club for trespassing over the continual bombardment, the paper reports. In December, a jury granted the Tenzars $3.5 million in damages and emotional and mental suffering after a 6-day trial. The awards totals $4.9 million with interest. The paper. Their kids have to wear bicycle helmets when playing outside. Golf balls splash into kiddie pools, and most recently, a deck railing got knocked out. When the family bought the house in 2017, they fell in love with it. However, it turned into a disaster. Boys, the world has gone soft. I don't know what else to say here, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this.
So listen,
you know what?
You get 7 figures for pain and suffering for you choosing to buy a fucking house on the inside of a dog leg lift. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but go outside and play hide and go fuck yourself, please. Please.
The sideways.
Okay.
Make sure it's in the back. Make sure you're playing go hide and go fuck yourself in the backyard too, please. But this is unbelievable. I can't. I mean,
really, yeah,
geez.
really. This is horrible because this reminds me of all of these people that have come to Hawaii in the last 30 years now, and guess what they proceed to do when they move here? They told all the farms, you can't do that anymore. And they chose to move right next to a farm, and oh, we don't like the dust from tillage. Oh, we don't want you spraying anything. You can't do that anymore. So what's next? You move next to a golf course and you tell the golfers, oh, sorry, you guys can't play golf anymore. And you chose to move in next door to the golf course. My goodness, because here's what I would probably do if I lived next to a golf course. I would probably plant a nice dense hedge. No, I'd plant a nice dense hedge that would screen off my property. That way, the shrubbery catches the golf balls and the golfers ain't looking at me and I ain't looking at them. Everybody's happy. Okay, that's how I'd handle it.
I get they're just feel like it's a disaster or whatever. $5 million seems crazy excessive. But in I hate to even defend these people, but we'll say, for instance, the golf course was not covering the damages for whatever reason. And they were expected to pocket this and, say that was $3.5 million of repairs. It's not. I could see where that would be parlayed into it. But the fact that a lot of this was awarded on the mental pain and suffering thing, I'm out. I'm out at that point, and I just can't take it serious. Speaking of not taking things serious, we potentially should take this serious, but boy, there's a lot to unpack here, more so than what the headline paints. An ancient protein could keep our crops alive during a searing future climate. We're talking about Rubisco here. Rubisco is an old enzyme that promotes photosynthesis in plants, and it was discovered many millions of years ago when the Earth was experiencing one of its hottest climates in the last 50 million years. In a study published April 15th in the journal Science Advances, researchers were able to use modern-day versions of Rubisco and piece together an idea of what the enzyme looked like in ancient times. As a result, scientists may be able to harness its power once again to help ensure our crops of the future can adapt and resist climate change and provide us all with the fresh fruits, vegetables, and grains we need. Plants suck in carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. They aren't exactly just able to make use of carbon dioxide in its current gaseous form. Rubisco, short for rubulose 1,5-biophosphate carbolase oxygenase, is the most abundant enzyme found on Earth. It transforms carbon dioxide into a biologically friendly form, which the plants then use to build their tissues. But the problem is that Rubisco interacts with oxygen. This undesirable mingling produces toxic byproducts that slow down photosynthesis and, by extension, impact crop yields. Scientists have been sussing out ways to mitigate this issue and improve crop production by genetically engineering plants to make an algae-derived form of the enzyme or other tweaks. But these efforts haven't really worked. So what they did is they've taken a trip down memory lane, put together like a large family tree to try and predict and understand what it looked like many millions of years ago when the Earth was extremely freaking hot, to see if they can reproduce that type of rubisco that was much less reactive with oxygen, and see if we can then introduce that into what we know as modern crop production. And it's pretty interesting because they're getting to use things like CRISPR and all the fun stuff that we hear about actually being used in the green industry, which I think is cool. However, I do want to point this out here, is that although this sounds really awesome, and I am in giant favor of it, and I'm glad they're going down memory lane to try and come up with a solution here. However, this is a long way away before we have a marketable, tangible product or genetically engineered crop that would be able to take advantage of this information that they're unpacking here. And I do not think the article gave it fair due diligence of pointing that out. Is there anything else y'all would like to add, gentlemen?
I think what you'll see, right? So, okay, for those that don't know or understand what rubisco is, I'm gonna have my shower thought moment of the day for everybody. Literally, without this enzyme, life as we know it would not exist. Life would not exist without rubisco. So rubisco is the enzyme that's responsible for fixing carbon out of the air and putting it into a form that is available to the plant to use then for energy production, right? So if you think about that, if we have no plants, you hear about nuclear winter and all this other shit. This one fucking enzyme is literally all that stands between us and not existing. So that's makes it kind of important. I think what you'll see, Matt, I agree wholeheartedly that trying to reverse engineer ancient enzymes is a noble cause, but I don't think you're going to see that. I think what you're going to find is the adaptation of C4 plants, which to our folks at home, those are warm season plants, right? So like Bermuda grass, like corn, right?
They like the heat.
They like the heat, but here's the other thing though, Matt. The issue is, right, because we have C3 plants, cool season plants, C4 plants, right? Ray, what's the difference there? C3 plants fix a 3-carbon molecule, right? C4 plants fix a 4, and they have an additional pathway to fix carbon outside of just the normal entry through the stomata in the plant. And so I think what you'll see is more widely adopted, and just like this asshole here growing Bermuda grass in Ohio, you're going to see more widely adapted C4 plants into northern climates as temperatures progressively rise, right, into different areas of the country where they weren't so much doing it before, right? And we'll find and select out for specific species and cultivars and things like that perform better in albeit cold climates, but still, right, using that energy production that we get from C4. I think the only other thing that you can say here is that with rubisco and what they're trying to do is, as carbon dioxide levels rise, right, in the atmosphere, that maybe there's some credence, right, to some increased production, right, and yield with these plants. So I yield my time.
Well, I think rubisco, though, if I'm not mistaken, that came about at a time when our Earth's atmosphere was also very oxygen deficient. So
yeah, they talk about that in the article where the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere at that time were more than double what they are now. Over 800 parts per million as opposed to like 400-ish parts per million.
Well, and even then, that what I'm saying by oxygen poor, I'm talking about basically where there was not enough oxygen to support life as we know it. So it's going to take a lot of engineering to make that rubisco work in our present atmosphere where we have enough oxygen to support normal life. I mean, it's going to take a lot. I mean, it's promising, but this reminds me of that situation where you got to tell the engineers, hey, back to the drawing board and work out all of the bugs and downsides.
Yep. And we'll continue to keep an eye on it. I hope to see great progress in this because it may unlock a whole new frontier the way we approach growth in general. Gentlemen, we've beaten enough up. We've beaten ourselves enough up. We've beaten our brains up. Let's bring it all back with this week's returns. La 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 la.
I'm back.
Don't forget about Sheila too. She was like that Van Halen album. No, I said you everybody was used and beaten up and everything. You neglected to mention Sheila. Like that Van Halen album. What Rode Hard, Put Away Wet? Yeah. All right, go on.
Oh, I was thinking Hot for Teacher.
So listen, Sheila's
not
taught
a
many
teacher.
things in her day.
But
She's teaching the real homie side of home ec. You know what I mean?
Hey, quick question.
Yeah.
Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Dude, we've talked about this before. All right. Here's the deal. Roth, invariably better as a group, okay, when Roth was there singing for them, okay? However, Sammy Hagar, I got to meet him on the golf course. He's a huge golfer. He plays like 200 rounds a year. I don't know if he still does, but when I was on the golf course, he was here in town to tour. I get to talk to him for 5 minutes. The nicest fucking guy you will ever meet. Just had a normal conversation with him. He asked me about grass. We talked turf for a little bit. We talked about his favorite courses. And then he was like, all right, man, well, I'm going to go on. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Nice talking to him. I mean, like the most down-to-earth fucking cool dude you'll ever meet.
You didn't want to be
Sammy
like
Hagar, too.
the guy that accosted Mike Tyson on the plane and be like, David Lee Roth is better, you tool.
That guy.
I can't drive 55, you loser.
Made a terrible mistake.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, what a horrible case of you just messed with the wrong guy.
Well,
And let's be
let me
honest.
tell you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, if that hadn't occurred on a plane, how much worse would that have been? Like, if that was like in an alley or a bar or something where a bunch of dudes would have just stood back and let them go at it,
Yeah,
how bad would that have ended?
We'd be scraping him up with a snow shovel. Speaking of making bad mistakes, TJ Jones probably thought at one time he was making a bad mistake, but it turned out to be something that he enjoyed. How TJ Jones transformed from a naval cook to a future turfgrass manager. And the joke there is that he made the mistake of joining the green industry, but actually turns out he fell in love with it. At North Carolina State, you will learn things that you never thought could be possible. Being here provides great opportunity to expand your knowledge. Outdoors enthusiast and former naval cook TJ Jones, thank you for your service. It's fulfilling an ambition of becoming a turfgrass management professional. During Celebrate Diversity Month, we're spotlighting this impressive student begin his academic career at the Agricultural Institute at 24. AGI tracks students from various regions of the state, provides hand-on education, professional training in the agricultural industry via its 2-year degree programs. The Institute's 6 academic programs offer students practical knowledge and experience to succeed in agriculture and related industries. Set to graduate December 2022, Jones' journey reveals hopeful message that following your inner compass can lead to a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. And I can say without a doubt, that is specifically to me what I enjoy most about the green industry. And I'm really impressed and I'm happy that he found the same thing. It goes through his Navy career here. I had a total of 3 deployments. I served as barracks manager in the Marine Corps Air Station at Iwakuni, Japan. He also traveled to France, Italy, Bahrain, Dubai, Australia, Singapore, and the Philippines. And then he decided to move on over into the green industry. What's interesting specifically about this to me is that he's taken advantage of a 2-year program, which I have seen on the turf Twitter sphere. It looks like the 2-year programs are being promoted quite aggressively by universities. And I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's the fact that it's only 2 years, but at a reduced cost. Maybe they're thinking that would have broader appeal to attract new people into the industry. But here we have a gentleman who is making his way through it, doing the damn thing, and is going to be a valuable asset. And I commend him, not just for his service for the country, but also in becoming a turfgrass manager. Good for you, buddy.
Agreed. You know, you got number one, a veteran here. Thank you for your service. And again, we talked about this before here, gentlemen. Like, Ray and I are the unicorns, and I don't mean that to say that we're special or anything like that. We're probably the more masochistic, really fucked up people in this industry that knew from like birth that this is where we were supposed to be. God help us. But I love seeing people find their place in this industry, and then not only that, but then finding a way to get themselves educated in it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to go to college. It doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to have a 4-year degree, a 2-year degree, whatever. Like, we all find our own paths. And so I think the thing that we sit here and focus right on is too much on is we don't have enough help. We don't have good people. We don't have this. We don't have that. Guess what? There's a lot of good fucking people that are already here. And there's a lot of really great fucking people that don't know that they should be here yet. It is our job to find them, convince them, make them aware, all those things, right? So as much time and energy and effort as we put into bitching about this problem that we all have, there's nobody that's saying, hey, man, I'm fucking full. I've got way too many good people. I got to fucking cut some people. There's nobody saying that. Nobody. So listen, if you aren't in that club, then you should be trying to do everything in your absolute power, not just for yourself and not just for your company, your place of business, whatever, but for this industry, is to help people find, become more aware of, and see that there is a path to doing this for a living and get paid pretty goddamn well for it too. Right, Ray?
That's right. I mean, I don't ever tell people, stay out of this industry. I tell people, get yourself educated, learn, and, that is why I devote a lot of what I do to just plain old educating people. Just educating people. I mean, I don't want to take this with me to the grave should a bus run over me or North Korea goes nuts and, blows Hawaii off the map tomorrow. I mean, I don't want to take that with me, okay?
Then you should definitely listen. If anybody needs a lead hat in this room, it's definitely Ray because of Kim Jong.
Well, when you tap it and it doesn't ding ding, you've got a solid material there to be able to deflect.
That's right. That's right. But that's why I devote so much of my energy to educating people and helping people. I mean, if somebody asks me and wants to know, okay, how do I do this? I'll help them. I'll take the time. I will absolutely help them. And I will even tell them, if you really want to learn this deep, here's what you got to do. And there's been instances where I've had people take me up on it and really improve themselves as people. And
you know what? I'm glad to hear that. I think the antithesis of that, going the other direction, is making a YouTube channel and getting affiliate links. So, there's also that way to go too. If you want to go the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fastest way to make $1 million right there. That is with is to make
6% of 6% or what $6 of every $100 jug of humic 12 you sell.
Yeah, that's gonna get you there. Also in positive news, coming out of Columbus, Ohio State has figured out at least what is taking place with a bacteria that is infecting plants and creating an issue called Stewart's wilt. A species of bacteria that infect corn crops compel their host to produce a feast of nutrients that keep the pathogens alive and thriving long before they start to kill the plant cells. New research shows. Though lab conditions don't represent exactly what happens in the field, the research provides insight into fundamental processes central to the ability of a pathogen to cause a corn disease prevalent in the central and northeastern U.S. called Stewart's wilt. These bacteria are also creating problems for rice and jackfruit crops in part of the eastern hemisphere. In what they ended up determining is that a bacterial virulence factor, a protein called WTSE, initiates the mobilization of food and water into spaces where the bacteria reside. And so basically what this is doing, the plant is giving up its own nutrients and giving it to the bacteria to allow it to proliferate. And so basically what they're saying is that maybe now knowing this, they'll be able to attack it from the standpoint of eliminating that nutrient availability for the proliferation of the bacteria. Pretty cool ass work here to unpack that. To be honest, I had never heard of Stewart's wilt before, but I can tell you that just hearing what kind of effect that has, that's scary. It does not sound like there's a lot of control measures currently available for it, and so a good work by Ohio State for getting out there and getting the damn
You're
thing
fucking
done.
right, buddy. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I saw somebody in Columbus, Ohio, randomly today with a UT Vols shirt on. Like,
That's a smart guy right there.
I about walked up to him and
Smart
told him,
guy.
like, I almost asked him 2 questions. I said, hey, do you know Matt Martin? And then the second question was, how quick can you get the fuck out of here with that shirt, huh?
No, all you have to say is, does it feel like 98? And I guarantee you that guy is going to do a cartwheel, a backhand spring, high five.
I was just going to start
tell him to go
clapping
F
and just
himself.
I was just going to start singing Good Old Rocky Top, and I'm sure he would have joined right in. He would have joined right
Yeah,
in.
he
But
would've.
no, for real, like, this is the kind of shit, though. You know, you talk about unpacking stuff, like the dollar spot pathogen, right, is somewhat similar in that, you know, it will sever, you know, the xylem within the turfgrass plant, right, to cut off water, right, to the shoots. So, you know, these pathogens are very interesting, and they're talking about bacteria here, not fungus, like where I'm talking about dollar spot. But I think the most important thing here is what they're saying is that if we can breed, right, out some of these proteins and some of these things, right, that will trigger certain response, maybe that's the pathway towards, you know, achieving long-term sustainable success against this disease, rather than trying to find, you know, raise some fungicide slot machine lottery of I mean, that's what they're doing at this point when they're developing chemistry. It's just, hey, let's spray a whole bunch of shit on this stuff and figure out what can stop it, and then hopefully we can take that to market.
Yeah, well, I think that product development, though, has changed quite a bit in that
Yeah.
there is a lot of computer modeling and prediction taking place, whereas previously, I think up until the 1980s and 1990s, a lot of the molecules were accidents. Like, for example, the people at the chemical companies just, oh, here's a compound. It has an extremely low LD50. What does it do? Okay, that was the research direction, and they wanted to find out, is this active on fungus? Is this active on weeds? Is this active on insects? Is this active on mites or nematodes? I mean, it was just throw it at the wall and see if the thing sticks, right?
Pretty much.
And that's, for example, I get asked, for example, so how did they figure out that something like benzolide worked for poa and crabgrass? When they say, wait a minute, that is an organophosphate. I don't know. I have no idea who figured that out, but that's important because that's one of the few things, for example, that can be used on a bent or Bermuda green.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, I hope that more of this comes to pass, but it doesn't happen without research. And right now, research is at a premium. So, you know, all things said, it's good to see successes of this. We need to highlight it, especially too, Matt, when it comes from one of the most bestest football programs in the country.
That's right. Gentlemen, let's check out this week's mailbag.
You've got mail.
Oh, boy.
This one is from Lucas. He says, I have a question about a product from Foliar Pack. I want to apply microsync out of my permagreen alongside Escalade 2. My question is will this be okay to run? And if not, what product do you recommend doing? I'm not super familiar with microsync. I do not know the source. And if you're spraying it with a broadleaf weed control application, what is he doing? Escalade 2? Does that contain 2,4-D? I don't know if it does or not. I was
Yes,
going to
it
say
does.
that If
Yeah.
microsync is derived from ferrous sulfate, I believe ferrous sulfate can be antagonistic against 2,4-D. I was trying to Google that.
Hang on.
Here is a iron
It's
source
iron
of 2,4-D tank mixtures influences weed control.
DTPA is the iron source in there.
DTPA is then
Yeah.
you should be gravy there, and you can combine those two, and you can apply them. Have at it.
What
And
I-
2 ounces
yeah.
per 1,000 out of the Triumph. Yeah, that's low, but I don't think you're going to burn anything that way.
No, I know specifically. I've had conversations with the foliar pet guys before about this product and several others, and it is literally made and built in such a way that you can include it in lawn care applications like this.
Well, there you go. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We had a ton of fun discussing all these topics. If you would like to help pick the name of this episode, then you can become a patron at patreon.com/burn-and-return. At our next level here, we have already started movie night. We had our first movie night, and I had to watch Step Brothers. And I'm not going to lie, I wanted to vomit the first half of it. And after about my third bourbon, the anxiety went away, and I was able to laugh a little bit. But it was pretty painful there for the first half of it. And but it did turn out to be funny after all. After I took a moment.
Tell them what our next goal is. What are we?
Our next goal is we are looking at making a yearly meetup a reality, and so that will be where we have a live show every year. Where we invite all the patrons to come hang out, and we spend a weekend together, or actually middle of the week kind of situation, but we can discuss dates and all that fun stuff. But a multiple day event where we get out there, we go as hard as we possibly can for a few days and really get to know each other. I mean, we had so much fun last time. I mean, just some of the names of people that were out there. Robert Palmer, Barthoda was there. Kenny Cooper was there. I mean,
Kenny
just
Cooper,
shitloads.
How did you do Kenny Cooper without saying his accent?
I busted his balls so bad. I still feel bad about it. I did nothing but bust his balls because that one I was already a little inebriated, and so it was the only thing that kept popping into my mind every time I was.
No.
Yes.
No.
So it was great. And so anyway, that's where we're going, and that would allow us to be able to do that. And so if you're of means to be able to do that, please offer the level of support. If you're of not of means to do that, then don't worry about it. And no harm, no foul. We still love you anyway. All right, we're heading over. We're going to go pick the title of this. Thank y'all. We'll see you next week.